This will be an emotional night at UBS Arena as Brock Nelson returns for the first time in the uniform of the Colorado Avalanche. We'll tell you what to expect and discuss Brock's impact on the Islanders. All that and more next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Thursday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. And thank you for helping to make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us today to talk a little Islanders hockey. And we have got a lot to discuss on today's show. An emotional game coming up tonight for the first time since he was traded at the trade deadline last March. Brock Nelson will be returning to Long Island to face his former team. We will discuss Nelson's impact on the Islanders throughout his career, what to expect tonight, and some of the emotions that will undoubtedly be going through the minds of fans, teammates, and players alike. We'll also answer your mailbag questions tonight on really the future of the New York Islanders, and we'll preview tonight's game against the Avalanche. All that and more coming up on today's show. Brock Nelson. Gotta love everything that Brock Nelson did for the New York Islanders. He was with the team for a dozen seasons, played 901 games in a New York Islanders uniform, scored 295 goals, 574 points, was an integral part of the 2 Islander teams that went to the conference final in both 2020 and 2021. And yet, at the trade deadline last March, the Islanders traded him to the Colorado Avalanche in exchange for Cal Ritchie and a first-round pick in this year's draft. So far, look, Ritchie was considered the top prospect in the Avalanche organization. Thus far this season, he started the year in Bridgeport. He has been playing with the big club now for a while, 17 games, 2 goals, 4 points. He is a +2, but gradually, we are seeing more of the Cal Ritchie that we expected to see. Again, it's a learning process. He only had 7 previous games of NHL experience, and now, he is getting his legs. He's always been steady, positionally sound from a defensive perspective, but offensively, he's still kind of looking to get into that groove. But we're seeing more confidence from Cal Ritchie and more productivity from Cal Ritchie with each passing game. But then there's Brock Nelson and his legacy with this team. 3 consecutive 30-goal seasons in 2021-22, 22-23, 23-24, getting his first 30-plus goal season at the age of 30. And again, a heart and soul kind of a player, a great teammate. And at the end, according to all the sources that I have heard from and what I've been told, Lou Lamoriello wanted to re-sign Brock Nelson, but Brock did not want to do that. He wanted to test the market. And so Lou Lamoriello, his hand was forced, and he ended up trading Brock. The Islanders have already faced the Avalanche in Denver. That was just a couple of weeks ago. And that was the first time that Brock Nelson had to face the New York Islanders. But it is going to be different this year or tonight, because tonight he returns to Long Island. And the fans who watched Brock develop from a 22-year-old rookie all the way up to being one of the better veterans and more consistent players on this team will get a chance to let Brock Nelson know how they feel about him, his career, and his time with the New York Islanders. And I expect, quite honestly, that Brock Nelson will get a very warm welcome from the fans. Unlike, let's say, John Tavares, I don't think there will be any bad blood between Islanders fans and Brock Nelson. And I do expect an ovation, a warm welcome. And look, after that, will the Islander fans be rooting for Brock Nelson while he's in an Avalanche uniform? No. Maybe every other game he plays when he's not facing the Islanders, but not tonight when he is facing the Islanders. That I don't expect. I do believe the Islanders should and will present some kind of tribute video to Brock Nelson. We'll probably see it during a break in the action, probably in the first period at some point. I think there will be some emotion there, both for the fans and for Brock himself. And let's face it, it will be an emotional time for the Islanders players as well. The guys who played with Brock Nelson for so long and who went to war with him. And, you know, Brock was always good for clutch goals, for working hard. He helped out significantly on the power play throughout, especially the latter half of his time on the island. And he will be remembered, regardless of what he does with the Avalanche or if he is eventually moved to yet another team. He will be remembered as a really integral part of the New York Islanders in the 2000 teens and early to mid 2020s. So I think Brock's place in Islanders history is secure. I think he had a great impact on this team. He will be remembered fondly. But when the puck drops, even guys like Casey Cizikas, who were teammates with Brock for 9-10 years, will not pass up an opportunity to check him if there's a 50-50 puck battle along the boards, because that's hockey. You're friends off the ice. You're friends before the game, after the game. When the puck drops, until that last whistle sounds, this is your opponent. But to me, I have always liked Brock Nelson as a player. He is certainly missed within the Islanders organization. And yes, everydayers will remember I was all in favor of moving on from Brock Nelson at the trade deadline last year. Not because I didn't like Brock Nelson or even that I thought his play was falling off significantly. It was just based on his age and where the New York Islanders organization was at that time. So to me, while sentimentality has its place in sports, not when you're trying to build a winning team. And I think that ultimately the Islanders were right to move on from Brock Nelson. That doesn't change the fact that he is missed here, but I wish Brock Nelson all the luck in the world. And after a slow start, by the way, Brock's coming on. You look at his numbers right now, and he has 9 goals and 17 points in 26 games. So he's on pace for about 54, 55 points, which, by the way, last year, 26 goals, 56 points combined between the Islanders and the Avs. He is not asked right now to play as big of an offensive role as he did with the Islanders, although he is still the 2C in Colorado. And by the way, he had a 4-point game on Saturday against the Montreal Canadiens, 2 goals, 2 assists in that one, and then had a goal again in their last game against Vancouver. So in the last 2 games, 3 goals, 5 points, not bad. Brock Nelson getting hot just in time to arrive on Long Island. And you better believe that Brock Nelson would really love to score a goal against his former team. We'll see how it all plays out tonight. It will be emotional, and I think fans will welcome Brock Nelson back with open arms. We have got more to get to on today's show. We're going to talk a little bit. We're going to dip into the mailbag. A very interesting question about the future of the Islanders and the approach this team should take. We'll get to that. We'll preview tonight's game against the Avalanche. And for our Islanders' birthday of the day, a defenseman who finished his NHL career with the Islanders, but won a Stanley Cup with the Canadiens, played also for the Flyers, the Whalers, the Hurricanes, and the Ducks. Let's see if you can guess who this Alberta native is. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover, and FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. They've got live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live NFL bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Visit FanDuel.com to check it out today. We go back to the mailbag. This is from Chuck in Land O'Lakes, Florida. He sent this to me on Friday of last week after Thanksgiving, but because of the Islanders' busy schedule, we're just getting to it now. Hey, Gil, I've been enjoying your podcast this week. Despite the Bruins' loss, this team is so exciting to watch. Schaefer's play makes me forget he's 18. You see the guys trust him. He's fearless out there. Do you still think players like Pageau and Lee may be traded at the deadline? I was thinking maybe because of the Islanders standing in the division that those kind of moves may be put on hold. What do you think? Also, is it me, or does Barzy look inspired this year? Thanks for all you do for us Forever Islander fans, Chuck in Land O'Lakes. Chuck, thank you so much for the kind words and for the question. As far as Barzy is concerned, yeah, I think he has played really well recently. Look, he still has some flaws in his game, mostly that you wish he would shoot more, although I think he is doing that a bit more this year. And again, as I've said, and everydayers will recall, he needs a sniper on his line to maximize what he can do. I think Schaefer's addition, as you said, I think the fact that Schaefer can skate with Barzy helps. But to get to the other question, the bigger question that you asked, Pageau and Lee and the trade deadline. It's still early, but if anything, I think the recent spate of injuries show us that this team, as it is presently constructed, still is not a Stanley Cup contender. And ultimately, if the Islanders are hanging around the playoffs come February, let's say, after the Olympic break, so you're going to have 10 days roughly after the Olympic break and before the trade deadline, something in that range. If the Islanders are still in the thick of the playoff race, I think the odds that they put off making some of those moves that you talked about with Lee and Pageau, I think the odds that they put it off go up. I still think that they are better off making the trades if they can. I think anything this team does this year is a bonus. And I go back to what Matthew Darche said at his introductory press conference, which was, we are here to build a team that is going to contend for a Stanley Cup year after year. And his model was the Tampa Bay Lightning, where for a decade, when you were listing the top 5, 6, 7 teams who could win a cup, you had to include the Lightning every year just about for 7 years. That is the goal. That is what he wants to accomplish. And while I would love to make the playoffs this year, I think the bigger goal is to accomplish the perennial playoff thing. And to do that, you need to move on from veterans and you need to add younger players, picks, prospects. Is it possible? Now, out of the two, Pageau and Lee, I think it is more likely that they trade Pageau. I love J.G. Pageau. He is one of those players who adds a lot of intangibles to the team, does the little things right. Good defensive center, penalty killer, great in the face-off circle, can play defense against another team's, most dangerous line and help minimize the damage. He'll score the odd goal. If injuries strike, he can move up to the second line or play on your second power play. It's not what you want ideally, but he can do it for a few games and not be out of place. But based on his age and based on where the Islanders are right now, I think they are better off moving on from J.G. Pageau. The other issue, in my mind, Anders Lee, I think there is a better chance that Lee stays on the island. If he stays, to me, it should be a 2-year deal at most, $5 million AAV at most. Because, and I think we're already seeing it now, you look at the numbers, through 27 games, Anders Lee has 5 goals and 13 points. That's about a 40 point pace over 82 games. Now, do I think Anders Lee will go through a hot streak at some point and pick up those numbers? Probably. His shooting percentage right now is 7.1. It's not going to probably stay that low. But my concern is that with Anders Lee, if you sign him to more than a 2-year deal, and maybe even only on a 2-year deal, you're more than likely going to see diminishing returns statistically. And if you wait and re-sign Anders Lee for his leadership qualities, for all the things he does both on and off the ice for this team, I don't think that's the ideal asset management. Now, Lee, if he wants to stay and is willing to take, a 2-year, $10 million total deal, I can live with that. I prefer to move on from him, but I think his leadership and what he brings to the team could offset that. But keep in mind, $5 million would be a higher cap hit than a younger player who could replace him, number one. And number two, he'll take up a roster spot that a younger player, whether it's a Danny Nelson or whether it's a Cole Yzerman. I mean, Yzerman will make the team, but you get the idea. A younger prospect who may be ready to step in will have to be delayed if you hold on to guys like Anders Lee and J.G. Pageau. I think because of his captaincy, Lee is the more likely of the two to stay. I do think how this team does between now and the Olympic break will be a factor. Obviously, health is a factor. We've already seen J.G. Pageau get injured. So hopefully, he's been skating with the team in a non-contact jersey. So he's making progress. And as I said, everydayers will recall, Matthew Darsh says he expects him back before Christmas. So, he's making progress. But again, older players more likely to get injured and more likely to take longer to return from an injury if injuries do occur. I think they should move on from both of these players. I'd be shocked if at least one of them isn't moved. I think Pageau is more likely to be moved than Lee, but we'll see what happens between now and the trade deadline. And again, thank you, Chuck from Land O'Lakes, Florida, for this question. We have got more to get to on today's show. We will preview tonight's game against the Colorado Avalanche. Plus, we will have our Islanders birthday of the day, all that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at Drip Drop. When I'm hydrated, everything just works better. My focus, energy, mood, even my skin. That's why I've been using Drip Drop. It's doctor-developed hydration that keeps me running at full power no matter what my day looks like. Drip Drop isn't your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top college and pro teams. I like using Drip Drop as part of my daily routine. I'll mix a packet in the afternoon before I head to the gym or to the pool and swim, and that helps break up my midday slump. Hydration has become non-negotiable for me. Drip Drop helps me feel sharper, calmer, and honestly just better overall. Right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard and keep your body and mind performing at their best with Drip Drop. Thank you again for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. We couldn't have done it without you. Islanders, Avalanche, big game, last game of this homestand, and no, it doesn't get any easier. Again, a 7 o'clock Eastern time start, and not an easy one for the Islanders. Why? Well, guess which team has the best record in the NHL right now? Here we are, right? If you're the Colorado Avalanche, 26 games into the season. Do you know how many regulation losses the Avs have in 26 games? One. They are 19-1-6. They have scored more goals than any team in the National Hockey League. They have allowed fewer goals than any team in the National Hockey League. Their penalty kill is third. They kill off 87% of opposing teams' power plays. What's struggling? The power play. 25th in the league at 16.1%. You know the names. Nathan MacKinnon, 22 goals, 46 points in 26 games. He's a plus 32. Marty Necas, 13 goals, 33 points. Cale Makar, 9 goals, 32 points. This team is deep. They are talented, and they are dangerous. They are bigger than the Islanders, faster than the Islanders, and it will not be easy. Now, look, if you remember the game in Denver about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, The Islanders went toe-to-toe with the Avs and really played well. That does not mean they still lost that game, and Patrick Roy believes that it was a big game, that maybe that was their best performance on the road trip, but they couldn't come up with the win. It will be a challenge to see if they can do it again. Now, obviously, there is emotion here for Patrick Roy. As we mentioned, he used to play and coach the Colorado Avalanche. Brock Nelson's return adds to the emotion. We also have Devon Toews, the former Islander, coming back. So lots there besides just a difficult matchup. The line combinations for the Avs: Nathan MacKinnon, Arturi Letkinen, and Marty Necas. That's a dangerous top line. How about this for a second line? Brock Nelson, Gabriel Landeskog, Ross Colton. Jack Drury centers the third line. Victor Olofsson to his left, Valerie Nichushkin to his right. And then Zakhar Bardakov, Parker Kelly, and Joel Kiviranta. That's the fourth line. On defense, Toews and Cale Makar may be one of the best offensive pairings in the NHL right now. The veteran Brent Burns and Josh Manson are the second pairing, and Samuel Girard and Sam Malinsky are the third pair. The goalies right now, Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood, but Wedgwood is now listed as day-to-day, so we'll keep an eye on that. Gavin Brindley is out of the lineup, and Logan O'Connor is on IR. This will be tough. The Islanders will have to play their best hockey, and they will have to emphasize defense if they're going to have a chance to win this game, because if this becomes a shootout, the Avs have more weapons and more players who can, if this game is going to be 7-5, the Avs are favored to have the 7. If it's 2-1 or 3-2, the Islanders' chances of winning are certainly higher. Let's see how Patrick Roy approaches this game. But it won't be easy. It would be a huge emotional lift for the New York Islanders to close out this disappointing homestand with wins over the Lightning and Avalanche. Let's see how the team responds. One thing we have seen from this Islanders team all year long, they tend to play up or down to the competition. Let's see. They played up to the Lightning's level on Tuesday. Let's see what they can do tonight against the Avs. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. We're a day early on this one, but Friday will be the 55th birthday of former Islanders defenseman Kevin Haller. Originally a first-round pick by the Sabres in 1989, played parts of 3 seasons with Buffalo, then went on to win a cup with the Canadiens in 92-93, played for the Flyers, the Hurricanes and Whalers, the Mighty Ducks, and then joined the Islanders for the 2000-2001 season and played 1 game for them in 2001-2002. At 6'2", 195, Haller, more of a defensive defenseman. He only scored 41 career goals and 138 points in 642 career NHL games. He had 907 penalty minutes, had 7 goals, 23 assists in 64 playoff games. None of those as a member of the Islanders. One of his better games as an Islander, November 27th, 2000, Islanders hosting the Lightning at the old barn. In this game, Dan Cloutier, the goalie for the Lightning, and Wade Flaherty in between the pipes for the Islanders. In this one, our Islanders birthday of the day, Kevin Haller. In the first period, with the Islanders up 2-0 after Roman Hamrlik and Claude Lapointe scored, Haller gets his first and ultimately only goal as an Islander. Claude Lapointe and Tim Connolly with the assist that made it 3-0 Islanders. Vincent Lecavalier made it 3-1, but in the closing seconds of the first period, Haller and Claude Lapointe set up Dave Scatchard to give the Islanders a 4-1 lead. They go on to win it by a score of 7-4 in this game. Kevin Haller, a goal, an assist. He is a +2, and he had 2 shots on goal in 18 minutes and 53 seconds. So Kevin Haller, a solid defensive defenseman who ended his NHL career on the island, he is our Islanders' birthday of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. You can find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. If you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long. And I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for a little instant insight and analysis. And it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Everydayers, we are back tomorrow. We will have our key takeaways from tonight's game against the Avalanche. And we will preview both of this weekend's games as the Islanders head to Florida to take on the Lightning and the Panthers. One game each Saturday and Sunday, so make sure you join us for that. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.